So with all sports being basically canceled and suspended until the coronavirus outbreak has been contained around in the world, basically, I want to take a time to talk about a prospect that has not signed with the Jets yet, who is a college prospect, and now that his season is done, he is open to signing with his team, and I'm hoping that he will be signing soon. The player I'm talking about, of course, is Dylan Samberg. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Dylan Samberg, hopefully this video will be really informative for you and you can get an idea of this prospect and what he can probably bring to the Jets if he chooses to come and sign with us. And I'll get into what I mean by that later. So first off, I just want to start a little bit about Dylan Samberg for everyone who doesn't know about him. So he's a left shot defenseman. 6'1", 198 pounds. He was drafted in 2017 in the second round, 43rd overall. And he has played for the University of Minnesota. Now, the name Dylan Sandberg, for most Jets fans who know about him, is kind of like a 50-50 response kind of thing like this. You're either going to get a glowing response about how people are excited about his future, or you're going to get people who are really uncertain about the ability for the Jets to sign him before he decides to go back and enter the draft again. But right now, he's ranked as our number 4 prospect in our system out of our top 10 prospects, and he could easily top that list if he becomes the player that a lot of people think he has the potential of becoming, especially as a defenseman. So I really think it'll be an interesting concept if the Jets are able to sign him, but I just kind of want to go over his stats. Now, I'm going to read you something from when he was drafted at the time. It's from Jets Nation. I'm going to read it quote for quote. It's a quote from Jets Nation, and this is what was said before he was drafted by the Jets. Sandberg is one of the rawest players in the draft and will definitely be a project. Despite being a relatively high pick, he was originally scheduled to play a year in the USHL before college. But after Duluth, not familiar with American schools, the lost defense with Neil Pionk to the NHL. They lost their defenseman to Neil Pionk. Of course, he played for them, and then he came over to the Rangers. He left and played for them. Sandberg will head straight to the college hockey. May take Sandberg a few years in Duluth to adjust to development, but if he continues on the upward trajectory, he has potential as a first or second pairing defenseman at the NHL level. So that's kind of where they thought. Now, that's pretty high for a second-round pick, you might be thinking. But like they stated, he is a project, and that's why he went in the second round. A lot of teams don't like to risk a defensive project in the first round. If you look at the Jets, they did that with Logan Stanley. It's kind of been a waste. But that's isn't a video about Logan Stanley. So that is from Jets Nation from the moment that he was drafted by the Jets. I think I stated earlier that it was before he was drafted. It was actually when he was drafted. I made that mistake. My apologies there. But if you look at his stats and his development and his improving, it's pretty promising for Jets right now, especially looking at our defense and how many issues we have with actual people who can play defense. So in his first years, as you can see, his first year at the University of Minnesota Duluth, he played 42 games and he had 13 points. Plus 5, solid rookie season, that was fine. And he got taken with that. He was drafted off of that. And the year after, he had another solid season, improved his point total, improved his goal outcome, and his plus-minus went up to 22. That's big. Now, yes, plus-minus is a broken stat. We all know this. But if you can be a plus 22, that is always a good sign for a defenseman. Good defensemen, you want to have them in the plus. At least that's how I look at it. If you have a guy in the negative, you got to take into considerations, obviously, since it is a broken stat, what the situation is on that current team. But overall, I feel like it is relatively an okay thing to look at plus minus as a stat, because it kind of does give you an idea of how he is as a defenseman, what his reliabilities are, how he's on the ice, pairing wise, who he plays with, what is the outcome comes to, who's on the ice with. There's a lot of different things that come with plus minus, since it affects also forwards who are on the ice as well. So it's a hard stat to read, but I like to look at it as if you're in the 20s as a defenseman, you're doing your job right, or at least in the 15, I would say. But then the year after that, he had another good year and improved his point total even more, developing as a project in college, improving his points, improving his goals. Actually, my mistake, he dropped in goals, but he still had more points. But nonetheless, he was a plus 8 to 17. That's another good year. Good defense, good progression in points, an overall solid year. Now, if Sandberg has continued to remain a strong shutdown defenseman, and he was labeled that even before he got into the draft, he was a shutdown guy who had offensive potential. And he's developed that offense very, very well in college. And, that's important. You want to have a guy develop his skills, especially when they're shut down, because And guys have a harder time making the NHL, let alone having a successful career, primarily based off shutdown D. Now, that sounds completely idiotic, I know that, but what I mean by that is that it's harder to make a name for yourself as a shutdown defenseman, especially coming into the league, because there's already so many guys who can fill that role. Being a shutdown defenseman is not the same, obviously, as being a two-way guy or an offensive guy who's going to help your power play. You're going to kill penalties, and you're going to ride that third pairing, or maybe even be a seventh defenseman who rides in the press box and plays certain games because you need tactical advantages and you have different skills, and you're a plug-in type of guy. Now, that's kind of where defensive defensemen fall into if you do not develop offensive skills. Even guys like Ben Sherratt on the Jets started like that and developed into having some ability to have offensive skills. And Dylan Samberg already developing those offensive skills before he even hits the AHL is huge in my opinion. He's already showing that he can put up points well enough in the college level that if he can make the jump and even put up 15 points, 10 points, 12 points in his first season, maybe as a second pairing, third pairing guy, that is big, 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 big. Especially for a guy who's supposed to be shut down. In my opinion, a shutdown defenseman, if you can get at least 20 or more points out of him, that is a really, really good asset. Like, top-of-the-line asset for a shutdown guy. I strongly believe that Dylan Sandberg can be this type of player for a team, who could be a solid top 4 guy, who puts in a lot of work, who plays extremely well. I could easily see it. Easily. And I'm really hoping that the Jets find a way to sign him, because I have a lot of faith in him. I think he'll be really good for the Jets. I think he'll fit in well with the Jets. Now, the big issues come into the fact that he may not want to sign here. Now, there's so many different rumors and speculations and all of this crap, but there is a possibility that since he has not signed anything and he is out of college now, that he can, if we don't sign him, he can go into the free agency. Kind of like what we saw with, oh my god, I'm drawing a blank on him now, but he went to the Rangers and it was a big deal. It was Buffalo and all that crap. I think he's on Buffalo now. Jimmy Vesey. I could not remember his name for the life of me. It was similar to that type of situation. We could see that happen with Dylan Samberg. I really don't want that to happen, and I don't think the Jets do either, obviously. So I expect at least some type of signing to be done with him. I'm hoping at least, but like I said, I have no idea. The big thing comes with Sandberg is getting him signed. I could talk for hours about how good he could be. The real issue is that if you cannot sign Dylan Sandberg to play for us, how are we supposed to develop him? And then we lose him and he will become this guy that I'm saying for another team. And we can't let that happen. We're already losing too many defensemen. Yes, we have a lot of future coming up, but the more you have, the better. This guy could be huge for us and can really, really fill a need that this team kind of has lacked in a long time. Having a guy who can really put up offensive numbers as well as being really well shut down defenseman, that's huge. We're already probably most likely not going to be seeing Logan Stanley coming up. I've kind of lost faith in the kid. He hasn't shown me anything. And this year for personally, I feel like he's gotten worse. And I think it's kind of running out of time for him to make an improvement, like enough to make it the league. And because of that, if that's one more prospect defensively knocked off the totem pole that we had looking at as a part of the future of the core when we knew that we were going to be losing defensemen coming up. Ever since we've lost Tobias Enstrom, the defense has kind of gotten worse. Now, I'm not saying Toby held it together, but I feel like Samberg could kind of fit the role of Enstrom. I really do. Now, Enstrom was small, but he wasn't shut down, and it was like, I know, but I'm not comparing them as players. I'm comparing them as the role of what they did. I personally believe in the glue guy, the glue guy on a defensive team. And there's always been a glue guy on the Jets for as long as I've been watching them. When I first started watching them when they first came back, when I was excited to have the Jets back, of course, the glue guy was Mark Stewart. Mark Stewart kept that defensive group together. Now, if anyone argues me on that, you can go to it's true. Mark, he was not a good defenseman. But what he did was keep them together. Like he kept them in check. Like he played well for us at the start, but this isn't the Mark Stewart video. I digress. The point is that you need a guy on the blue end to keep your defense in check. We don't have that anymore. Buffalo, our oldest defenseman is Dmitry Kulikov. That's the most experienced defenseman we have on our blue line right now. Like, that's a joke. It's a complete joke. We need that experience again. Now, I'm not saying Dylan Sandberg is going to come in and be a glue guy as a rookie. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if we don't sign Sandberg, we lose the possibility of him developing into a glue guy for the future core, and on top of that, being just a solid prospect. And that is where I get really nervous with him, because you never know what could happen. Samberg is a really good prospect. He's going to make the Jets better. I personally believe that. I have a lot of faith in in Sandberg, Niku, and Ville Heinola. I have a lot of faith in those three guys. I want to see them play together. Now, the only thing is going to be getting him signed. If we can get Sandberg signed and get him with the Moose next year, I expect big things from him. The biggest thing, though, is going to be getting him signed. If we can't get that contract to him, if we can't agree to get him in, then we're screwed. Because we just literally showcased a top talent to the NHL as a prospect, and then now a team could swoop in and get him. A rival could swoop in and get him. Anyone could come and get him. And that would really affect us. We can't lose him. Now, I'm going to end the video on that note. If you guys enjoyed the video, please make sure to comment and subscribe. Share the video. Let's get a conversation going about Dylan Sandberg in the comments. I hope everyone's staying safe with the coronavirus. As of the time I'm recording this video, suspension and everything like that, I'd laugh if by the time I uploaded it, the world was back to normal. But I hope everyone's still being safe. Nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're a Jets fan or a hockey fan. Jets coverage right now, but I will be getting more into NHL wider coverage down the road. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Anyways, take care, peace out, and I'll see you in the next one.